before you turn down the lights and let the silence creep into the room around you. Listen carefully. These are not stories born from imagination alone or shaped by the comfort of a crowded campfire. These are stories that come from people who stepped into the woods believing they were truly alone, people who trusted the quiet, who welcomed the isolation, who thought the forest would be nothing more than trees, dirt, and darkness. They were wrong. Deep in the woods, when your phone loses signal and the night stretches endlessly, fear doesn't announce itself with a scream. It arrives softly, through a snapped twig behind you, through the sudden absence of sound, through the feeling that something is watching from just beyond the reach of your firelight. Tonight, as you enter the world of three creepy true alone in the woods camping horror stories, you're stepping into that fragile space where survival meets the supernatural, where terror strips away comfort and exposes something deeper. Yet within these chilling moments are lessons forged in fear itself, lessons about awareness, humility, courage, preparation, faith, and resilience. The woods do not just scare you, they teach you, if you survive long enough to listen. One of the most powerful lessons the woods can teach is awareness, the kind that awakens something ancient inside you. A man once shared his true experience of camping alone deep in the Pacific Northwest after his life had quietly fallen apart. His marriage had ended, his home felt empty, and the forest seemed like the only place quiet enough to hold his grief. He hiked for hours, setting up his tent, far from trails, convinced that isolation would heal him. The first night passed peacefully, almost beautifully. The second night felt wrong. The air was heavy, the forest unnaturally still. No crickets. No wind brushing the leaves. Just silence, pressing against his ears until it felt loud. As he sat beside a small fire, staring into the flames, he heard something move beyond the ring of light. Slow footsteps, careful, deliberate. When he turned his head, they stopped. When he faced the fire again, they resumed. At first, his mind tried to soften the fear. Deer, elk, an animal curious about food. But something didn't fit. The steps were measured, evenly spaced, bipedal. They circled his camp like something studying him. His heart pounded so hard, he thought it might betray his hiding place. He resisted the urge to shout, to run, to do anything foolish. Instead, he stayed alert. He fed the fire. He made himself visible. He gripped the knife it brought more as a tool than a weapon, holding it where it could be seen. Hours passed like this, fear stretching time, until every second felt like a minute. When dawn finally broke, the woods seemed ordinary again, almost mocking him. But near his tent, pressed into the damp earth, were bare human footprints, close enough that whoever made them could have reached out and touched him while he slept. That night taught him something he carried back into the world with him. Fear is not always meant to paralyze you. Sometimes fear is a warning, a gift meant to sharpen your senses and keep you alive. Awareness saved him, just as awareness can save us in life, when something feels wrong and we're tempted to ignore it for the sake of comfort. Another lesson the woods teach is humility, the understanding that solitude is powerful but not something to treat lightly. In an old Eastern European forest, tied to countless local legends, a man chose to camp alone, scoffing at warnings from villagers who told him not to stay after dark. They spoke of voices that mimicked loved ones, of travelers who wandered off paths and were never seen again. He laughed it off, convinced that fear was for the weak-minded. That night, as fog rolled between the trees, he heard his name whispered from the darkness. It sounded exactly like his mother, who had died years before. The voice trembled, calling him gently, begging him to come closer. Every part of him wanted to answer, wanted to believe it was some strange comfort offered by the woods. But something deep inside him froze his tongue. He remembered the warnings. He remembered that love does not lure you into darkness. He stayed silent, clutching his jacket as the voice grew desperate, then angry, then faded into the trees. By morning, he fled the forest shaken and humbled. Solitude can heal, but arrogance in isolation can destroy. The woods taught him that respect is not weakness, and humility can be the thin line between survival and disappearance. Courage is another lesson carved sharply into those who face terror alone. A woman camping solo in the Canadian wilderness woke in the middle of the night to her tent being pressed inward, the fabric stretching until it brushed her face. Whatever leaned against it was heavy, unmoving, breathing softly. Her body locked with fear. She wanted to scream, to burst from the tent and run, but instinct told her that panic would only make things worse. Instead, she stayed still, every breath controlled, whispering prayers she hadn't spoken since childhood. Minutes dragged on, her muscles burning as she fought the urge to flee. Then the pressure lifted. Silence returned. At sunrise, she found massive claw marks in the dirt, deep enough to remind her how fragile she truly was. Courage didn't roar that night, it whispered. It told her to endure, to stay calm when fear demanded chaos. Courage doesn't always mean fighting. Sometimes it means surviving the moment without losing yourself. Preparation is another truth the woods reveal without mercy. Search and rescue volunteer once told the story of a man who survived being stalked for 2 nights in the forest because he respected the reality of danger. He carried extra food, emergency flares, and a map marked with escape routes. When he realized something was following him, when he heard movement pacing him through the trees, he didn't rely on luck. He relied on preparation. Fear arrived, but panic didn't take over because he had given himself tools, options, and time. In life, preparation isn't about expecting the worst. It's about loving yourself enough to be ready when the worst shows up. Uninvited, hope, strangely, often reveals itself in moments of dread. Appalachian folklore tells of a lost camper who followed mysterious lights flickering between the trees, believing they would lead him to safety. As exhaustion pulled him forward, he remembered his grandmother's warning about lights meant to deceive. At the last moment, he turned away, choosing darkness and cold over a beautiful lie. He spent the night shivering, afraid, convinced he might not survive. But when morning came, rescuers found him alive. Hope doesn't always feel warm or comforting. Sometimes, hope is the strength to endure the long night, instead of chasing something that promises relief too easily. The woods also teach the importance of boundaries. In Australia, a camper heard someone crying for help late at night, the voice echoing between trees. His heart urged him to respond, but his instincts held him back. He kept his distance and contacted authorities at first light. Police later confirmed the dangerous fugitive had been hiding in the area, using cries for help to lure victims. Compassion is powerful, but wisdom keeps compassion alive. Boundaries can be the difference between mercy and tragedy. Faith often becomes louder when fear refuses to quiet down. A man lost in the Montana wilderness spoke of unseen movement following him for hours, just beyond sight. As exhaustion set in and fear threatened to break his mind, he prayed constantly, grounding himself in something greater than the darkness around him. Whether you call it God, faith, or inner strength, that connection steadied his steps and carried him through the night. Fear may surround you, but it doesn't have to own you. And perhaps the deepest lesson of all is transformation. Every person who survives a true Alone in the Woods horror story says the same thing. They return changed. The forest strips away the illusion of control and replaces it with gratitude. Gratitude for breath, for light, for life itself. Fear doesn't always come to destroy you. Stay aware, stay humble, stay prepared, and trust the quiet voice inside you when something feels wrong. Even when you believe you are completely alone, you are not abandoned. May you walk through every dark forest of your life with courage, discernment, and faith, and may God watch over you in the silent places. Steady your heart when fear presses close, light your path when shadows surround you, and bring you safely back from every lonely trail stronger than before.